welcome to the Better Together podcast. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. We're actually doing a Skype interview with Dr. Harold Koenig. He is a professor. He's also a researcher at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina, and you might have heard of him or seen him in a couple of different places. He's a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences and also an associate professor of medicine and a senior fellow in the Center for the Study of Aging and Human Development. So, hey, thank you, Dr. Koenig, for I know you're very busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today about COVID-19.
It's my pleasure, Eddie. Anything I can do to help.
Hey, well, I think most people know of you or think about you with all of your research talking about how important it is to attend worship service and the great health benefits that we get from that. When the CDC first came down with their recommendations, I guess, at that moment for no worship services or no crowds over 50 for 8 weeks, I thought, what kind of impact is it going to have spiritually? What kind of impact physically as well? And so I said, I know someone we should talk to about that. So initially, we've just had not that long to kind of take this in. What's your initial impressions about that situation and perhaps the spiritual and the health impact it could have upon believers?
Yeah, Eddie, we're going through the exact same thing. We're doing it. All of this is we're doing it together here.
Yes.
We couldn't attend art services on Sunday because of the national guidelines that or I guess rules now.
Yeah.
But it was good. Our church did it online, and I'm sure many other churches did it also. Pretty much most of the churches in our area did live streaming online, and it was a good experience. It was great. My family and I, gathered around and we listened to it. So that's something you can do. It isn't the same as being together with people and hugging them and shaking their hands and seeing them in person, but right now I think it's all we got. But
yes. So that's one of the things we're trying to do is to stress to folks to do that and actually asking folks take a couple of pictures, and even if you've got a Bible study, maybe you could do that in an interactive method. And so I hear what you're saying is it's a substitute for what we usually have with the contact. We've got to be at least 6 feet away from each other, we know. So you're about to give us some more information before I cut you off there about next steps as far as that goes.
Well, I was just going to say, there are so many benefits to being part of a religious community and meeting regularly together, which makes me a little nervous also. Can these benefits be applied to watching live stream church services? We don't know. This has never actually been studied. But we do know that getting together with one another regularly, attending religious services, it actually enhances immune functioning and the body's ability to fight off things like, the coronavirus. It literally does that. So we've shown that among older adults in particular, objectively, that their immune systems are functioning better for those who are attending religious services regularly. Now, of course, that also kind of comes up against, when you're thinking about how do you apply that, maybe we should start going back to church. But, there is that contact also, that physical contact that spreads the virus. So even though your immune systems might be stronger, still the exposure is going to be probably greater. So, despite all of this research showing the wonderful benefits on immune functioning, longevity, everything of religious service attendance, we right now, for the next 8 weeks, I think we're stuck with it.
Yes. And so missing out on that opportunity, let's talk a little bit about what we can do to help boost our immune system. And you've already mentioned the live streaming is a way to try to combat that. There's a lot of value your research shows to the spiritual disciplines as well, isn't there? So is that what we need to do to kind of try to boost that or address that?
Oh yes, absolutely. And also, calling people on the phone, and instead of interacting with them in person, you're going to want to maybe, do a Skype with them, or FaceTime, or whatever it is, to try to replace that one-on-one person interaction. And it may very well benefit just as much as in person. If you're on the phone, again, we don't have any data on that, but I would suspect that one-on-one contact is going to have a lot of benefit
Mm-hmm.
for people. So I would encourage people to call one another, interact. You're stuck at home, you can't do anything anyway,
Yeah.
largely. And so get on the phone and call one another, and fellowship and pray with one another for safety and for strength during this time. So I would really encourage that. And also, as you said, the spiritual disciplines. Um, Certainly, developing your relationship with God and talking with God, interacting with Him, practicing God's presence in your life, that is bound to have some beneficial effects, especially during this time of national stress and anxiety. So I would strongly reading scripture. This epidemic is not the first time it's ever happened. It happened back there, when Jesus was. Now they didn't have quite as much contact, I guess, but they had plenty of contact. And during the first couple of centuries, in fact, the reason why Christianity spread so rapidly, during those first few centuries, is actually because of a plague just like this one. It was the bubonic plague in Europe that was decimating the entire population, and Christians would go out and risk their lives to care for these people. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually people began to see that, boy, these people are willing to risk their life. This, what they believe in, must be pretty important. So that's really one of the reasons why it spread all over the world during those. It was the Christian attention to caring for their neighbor, loving their neighbor, as Jesus had said. So
So
anyway,
that
those spiritual disciplines are important.
they're pretty big deal. So like passages like Psalm 46, Philippians 4, Psalm 23, good passages for people to read and think about, meditate upon, and pray as well. You mentioned how Christianity spread. So Christians that was something that made them different. They didn't just take care of the people they liked or family, they took care of other folks. So it sounds like that's an action step for us, is not be so consumed by our fears, but to be outward focused. What can I do for a neighbor? What could I do for someone else in need? And I think there's some good research on volunteering and how that's a big boost as well, isn't there? And so if we could be outward focused, it would be a good benefit to us as well, wouldn't it?
I agree totally. Interesting that we should be talking about this actually, because just this morning, me and my wife had a little bit of an argument about that
Uh-oh.
this morning, literally. And so she's so giving. She's out there delivering meals and food to just about everybody in the community. I'm saying, hey, now, if you bring this virus back here, it's going to affect me. And so I was thinking, then I had to catch myself, and I thought, well, she's got to make up her own decision on this, and she won't wear a mask though, but that's okay too.
Well,
Whatever. Everybody's
do
got to make their own decision. I figure, okay, well, I'm just gonna
yeah.
wash my hands and not kiss her,
That's
the
right.
next time
Well,
here.
maybe she won't see this podcast. There's always that hope. So
That's exactly. Hopefully, she won't see it and you won't hear it. I'm at home
yeah.
right now, so
Well, look, you got a valid. That's a valid issue too, because that's what people are thinking. How do I keep myself healthy? I want to help other people, but what can I do to increase other things I can do to increase my make myself less susceptible to this illness and other illnesses that are going around? So, as a physician, what kinds of things do you recommend with that?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm trying to maintain my health. That's if anything, I'm obsessed about my health. So I exercise every day for an hour and a half, 7 days a week. So I'm swimming, I'm on the treadmill, I'm doing sit-ups, I'm doing whatever I can to stay physically active and physically fit. And I'm getting close to 70 now. So, that's
It's
I'm
a
in
key.
the
Yeah.
on the downward slide here, but this physical health is so important in maintaining it. It takes a lot of effort to do that every day, and that's going to build up your resistance. You're just, if anything, if you do get a viral infection, whether it's the COVID, 18 or 19 or whatever, you're going to get over it better. Now, I do have to say I do a few other things as well. Um, One thing, and not everybody agrees with this, but I have a large quart of lemon of water. It's like a full quart, maybe even more, with breakfast and with lunch. And about 80% of it is water, but about 20% is pure lemon juice. And I
Mm.
started to do that about almost 20 years ago because I was getting kidney stones. And
Oh,
as a result of doing that, having all the fluids and the lemon juice, which has natural vitamin C in it, I have literally, well, I haven't had any more kidney stones, but I actually haven't had a cold or even had a flu of any significance in the last 15 to 20 years. And
wow.
I'm sure that has to do with that every day, that daily, that lemon juice. And I got to watch out for your teeth because it can eat up your enamel. So
Uh,
I just use a straw to suck it up with and everything, and then even a little bit of baking soda afterwards to rinse out my mouth so that it doesn't eat up the enamel on the teeth. But I tell you, doing that, at least for me, has prevented me from getting viral infection. So I'm
mm,
continuing to do that right now. So
wow.
exercise, plenty of fluids, with maybe a little vitamin C, lemon juice, orange juice, whatever in there, and a healthy diet. Healthy
Mhm.
diet's important. Trying to maintain, your weight at a reasonable level. Um, and like we talked about, trying to be optimistic, not being so anxious, depending on your faith to calm you and everybody around you. And as I think about what else can you do, um, you know, I think those are some pretty big
I think
steps.
so. I think so. And really, you're talking about you've got a routine down. It's a healthy routine. Eating the right things, exercising.
Sleeping, sleeping. You got to sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. That's a big
Yes.
one too.
Going to bed same time, getting up at the same time, that kind of thing. So would help people to have good immune system and push back. I should have mentioned you were a nurse before you were a physician, and nurses, studying like I guess it was the 1917 influenza outbreak. There's some research where people had nurses survive, people that didn't did not, and wow, the value of nursing care. So let's kind of switch gears a little bit. What might we do to care for someone? People may not be able to go to the doctor, or it may become difficult to be hospitalized or whatever. Most people probably wouldn't need that. What can we do to care for someone effectively that's struggling or with this or any other particular illness?
Yeah, the caring for others, I mean, that's what we're called to do,
Yeah.
and my belief is that if you're in the center of God's will, you can't get any safer than that, because he's
Yes.
got your back. That's been
Yes.
my experience that, you might get sick, you might get the coronavirus, yes, but in the end, you're in the center of God's will, you're caring for your neighbor, you're loving your neighbor, you can't go wrong. So that's kind of really the bottom line. And I'd love to do a study of nurses to see whether they are as susceptible to various viral infections compared to people who are not caring for others, meeting others' needs. I'd love to do a study because I would bet that they are more resistant to viral infection. I mean, I'm just guessing here, but just based on the whole physiology, when you're when you're volunteering, they've shown, that your whole body changes. I mean, literally, it just physiologically, it's different. And it's more resistant to just about everything. As you're
Yes.
caring for others, as you're volunteering, even that sense of warmth you get when you do a good deed, that there's actually a physiological response there that potentially could protect you from various maladies, improve your immune functioning, et cetera, et cetera. So
Hmm.
I'm convinced that the bottom line is that if you're in the center of God's will, you're going to be you can't get any safer than that. That's the bottom line.
And so, and Jesus did say the person that gives is better to give than to receive. And you've got research that backs all that up as well. So we want people to focus on, hey, doing what we can. And yes, protect yourself, wash your hands, and all that kind of thing. But oh, what a difference that definitely makes, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, like you said, do all the precautions. There's nothing, that's a good idea to do that because both faith and medicine kind of work together if you want to have the
Mm-hmm.
maximum benefit. So do all the safety precautions and, wash your hands when you can and do all of that stuff too. Don't
Yeah.
just don't be brazen, and be a martyr. Being a
Right.
martyr, God wants you around for a while. Not,
Right.
he
That's
already
so.
martyred himself for you,
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, that is helpful. Is there anything else you think of that you want to add or that we haven't talked about to help people along with this particular malady that many people are experiencing today?
Well, I'm just excited, to be able to talk to you about this. I think that if we can influence, pastors and congregations, I think that would be a really neat thing, especially, in during these times for people in the faith community to be exemplars in how to respond in these times. This could spread the gospel all over the place because people see that these people are different. I want to
Yeah,
be like these people. What's different about them?
right.
I mean, this could be a tremendous opportunity for evangelism, really.
Excellent. So it's an important time to maybe focus on that. Think about, hey, yeah, things are different. It's not the way we kind of wanted it to be or planned for what we'd be doing this time of the year. But hey, God was not surprised by it, and He wants to take it and use it. Hey, that's good. Well, look, yeah, I appreciate you stopping and spending some time with us today. I appreciate the good work you've been doing all of these decades, and I hope that many of our listeners will examine it. I think there's a lot of help for ministry if we take a look at that. And so, hey, just keep up the good work, my friend, and God bless you and God be with you. Okay.
God bless you too, Eddie. Keep up what you're doing also.
Thank you, my friend.